No doubt there must be symbiotic relationship, all that is there. But the legislation is not like that. Legislation recognizes the expertise of the Reserve Bank board, the application of mind by the central board to the central government. Argument is, where is that?
My argument is not that RBI's role has to be minimized. It doesn't. Certainly for me, for every citizen, if I am going to say 500 rupees denomination, I am going to cease to be legal tender. But tomorrow I will notify 10 series. Day after tomorrow I will notify 8 another series. Will there not be an endless uncertainty and chaos? It will be. Therefore,
for 1 rupee, 2 rupee currency, but not for 500 and 1000.
May I address this question? The question of which denomination shall be chosen will again be a matter of policy consideration. The why I am choosing. In the 1978 case, in the parliamentary debate, what happened was they also 500 rupees and 1000 rupee notes. In the parliament, somebody went and said, why are you not looking at 100 rupee notes? They are
demonetized here, all 500 and 1000.
Like they are the denominations.
Of 500 and
500 rupees the denomination, 1000 is the denomination.
Yes, no, we will go step by step.
And smart.
Now, now the argument of Mr. Chidambaram is,
yes,
any does not mean all. Only submission you have made counter to the other side is, these are all economic policies, don't touch. That's all so far you have said. What is your legal
I'm only trying to find out why
that's all right. What is your opposition to the plea of the other side? Please tell us. Your only submission, as we understand from this, this first submission notice.
Yes.
These are all economic policy. Experts have done it. Don't touch. That's all.
That's a broad proposition.
Then tell us. You point out you must. What is your argument? How do you counter their submission?
No,
for example, they said it is not in conformity with section 26(2).
Come to section 26. I immediately come to it. I just come to it.
That is the main argument they have canvassed. That is perhaps
the argument on 26(2) is premised
how you have
on certain framework of.
That's all right. What point you meet the points one by one.
Your now argument appears to be objective since we have now enacted a 2017 Act. Don't touch our action under 26(2).
The notification, I think it's a very legitimate legal argument. The 2017 Act has come into position. I'll read the 2017 Act, section 3 and 4.
No, maybe this what you have now given is almost to say that the object has been achieved kind of thing. First you should show the contention which was heard, whether the procedure was followed rightly or not.
I'll definitely come to that. I'll definitely come to that. I'm not going to skirt that issue at all. The procedure to be followed, I'll share the information also, nothing to hide from the court, everything is clear. But I want to lay down a foundation for what is thought to be said. How do you look at section 26? If you want to look at section 26 as an standalone provision and as any other statutory provision, then we are probably going in the wrong direction. I want to say, see the scheme of the RBI Act. Look at 26. What is the place which occupies in the entire RBI scheme of the powers and function given to RBI? Unless you look at that, 26 will not probably get its proper light and in construction. Therefore, I am trying to place all this background. So how do we really look at it? I'll certainly come back to section 26 in a few minutes. And if may then read this note a little later.
No, we will leave it to you, but please answer their question.
I'll definitely.
Please respond to what is.
Lordship, then take section 26 for a minute and the RBI Act. It would be look at the entire scheme of a string of provisions in the Reserve Bank of India Act and what's the role of a central bank and how it discharges its functions and what amount of responsibility it is called upon to act in the section 26. And if you want to introduce certain pedestrian considerations on looking at an ordinary statute, either a recommendation, either a consideration, either a consultation, well, then you are going to reduce section 26 to a very narrow area where the entire complexity of management of currency monetary policy will be stultified. That's why I thought I'll place a larger framework and then come to section 26.
So we are
I'm sure I'll be able to pursue the way section 26 should be read and understood, in order that the integrity and the scheme of the RBI Act is kept intact. We are talking about an important legislation for the entire monetary policy of the country. It is not any other statute. Therefore, certain considerations may have and invoke for the purpose of reading any other statute, giving a little flexibility, liberal reading, purposefully, etc., probably may not be helpful in the context of a statute like that.
So we are looking at section 26 in the context of central banking functions, chapter 3.
About the employment position, how EPS, employment, ESI, etc., there is an increasing, contribution. Now, 2014-15, you have 6%. So only mark 2016-17, 17-18, 18-19, the increase in the number of taxpayers. And this is a very significant increase. Then 25% growth in income tax returns filed during 17-18, 6.27 crores in 2017-18, as compared to Rs 5.4 crore in 2016-17. Then significant increase in returns filed by corporate taxpayers, growth rate of 17.2% for corporate taxpayers, so and so, more than 5 times higher than the growth rate and so and so. Then substantial number, a very equally important issue. A substantial growth in new PAN numbers during financial years 2016-17. 4.65 crore PAN number allotted, which is 87.9% higher than 2.74 crore PAN numbers allocated during the financial year 2015-16. So that's how indicated in this table. Then thereafter, paragraph 2, enhanced tax collections. Net direct tax collections were significantly higher. Growth rate of 18% for FY 2017 is net direct tax collection over FY 2016-17. Then rise in personal income tax. Personal income tax advance tax collections increased by 23.4%, and for PAT self-assessment by 29.2% over those so and so. So self-assessment tax in witnessed steep increase, almost doubling a span of 2 years. So 17-18, we have about 1 lakh crores. Then enhancing the digital penetration. We all of us know from moving from an informal economy into a formal economy requires various set of measures. So we are talking about the digital economy and the digital penetration. Direct benefits. Unified payments interface launched in 2016 saw transactions worth 6,952 crores in so and so, which rose to 1.09 lakh crore, 8.7 lakh crore, and 21 lakh crore to the next 3 years, 17-18, 18-19, 19-20 respectively. The monthly transaction crossed the 2 billion mark in UPI in October 2020, recording an 80% growth in volume and 10% increase in transaction volume, so and so. Greater digital penetration has been one of the most tangible benefits of withdrawal of legal tender status of SBNs. The volume number of UPI transactions shot up from 1.6 crores in 2017 to 90.5 crores in 17-18, and further about 5,000 crore in 21-22. The value of the UPI transaction also grew 1,210 times compared to 2016-17. And what are the indirect benefits? Digitalization, along with demonetization, makes electronic payment mechanism viable, available, acceptable, and cost-effective. Contactless cards and mobile payments are broadening the base of digital payment mechanism and penetrating into smaller transactions, including one-on-to-one person-to-person payments. The internet banking model and mobile banking model through smartphones have increased, keeping pace with the rapid digitalization of India. Then we turn over to the next page. Less cash economy, direct benefits. The withdrawal of legal status of SBN resulted in lesser cash-based economy. The note ban slowed the growth of cash. 16.1 lakh crores worth of notes were in circulation at the end of the financial year 2015-16, registering a year-on-year growth of 14.51% over 2014-15. At this rate, note circulation would have increased 29.49 lakh crore by the end of 2019-20, whereas it increased only to 24.20 lakh crores by the end of 2020, thus reducing incremental growth in currency in circulation by over 4.28 lakh crores. Demonetization brought cash to GDP to 8.7% in 2016-17 from 12.1 in 2015-16. The next one, impact on banking and economic variables. In spite of demonetization, following parameters that remain stable: investment, common spending, exchange rates, interest rates, and money supply. And when global economy was suffering from an overall subdued demand, India, despite an initial slowdown in growth following demonetization, managed to maintain above average growth rate level, and there has been a rebound later both in the manufacturing and agricultural output. Demonetisation has brought significant impact on banking variable. Sudden surge in the liquidity brought down the interest rates, affecting asset quality. Domestic credit picked up a new high since July 2017. Non-food credit recorded an upward trend in November 2016, witnessing an 8.8% growth till November 2017 on a year-to-year basis. Demand and time deposits have been increasing since demonetization. The real GDP growth in 2017-18 was higher than the average annual growth of 6.6% in the decade, that is 2010-11 to 2019-20. Then formalization of economy, indirect benefit. Between September 2017 and November 2018, Employees Provident Fund Organization enrollment data saw an increase of 1.1 crore new enrollment. That means there's an upsurge in employment. And 55% increase in ESIC registration took place in the Employee State Insurance Corporation in 2017-18. Then indirect benefits, the last page, improved status of India in the global stage. By the end of September 2020, notices were issued in case of undisclosed foreign assets and income over 14,150 crores. Action against domestic black money between April 2014 to September 2020 resulted in undisclosed income of 82,168 crores as admitted. Surveys conducted in 63,000 so-and-so cases led to undisclosed income of 84,396 crores getting deducted. Prosecution so-and-so. Therefore, the global reputation of India has gone up enormously, posed cleanup pressure and the transformation of the economy. This is a broad picture I wanted to look, your lordship, to have it. And then having that in mind, then we will probably look at the scheme of RBA Act. We'll get an entirely different perspective on that. I have tried to summarize all it in a disturbed date format. Your lordships can convenience can you hand it over. I don't propose to read it. I'll call just. Out of a very special scheme and a special act. Therefore, the deference, the degree of deference, and the understanding and the construction of the provisions of this act will vary far different from the other economic policy measures. We're not looking at an isolated economic policy. We're looking at a monetary policy which will be the birth product of an action taken in Section 26. Therefore, entirely different considerations will follow, and the degree of deference will certainly be a higher level. Now, having said that, let's clear lordships to section the RBA Act. This the bank is of 1934, pre-colonial. Look at the preamble of the Act. Whereas it is expedient to constitute the Bank of India to regulate the issue of bank notes and the keeping of reserves with a view to securing monetary stability in India and generally to operate the currency and credit system of the country to its advantage. And whereas it is essential to a monetary policy framework to meet the challenge of an increasingly complex economy, whereas the primary objective of the monetary policy is to maintain price stability while keeping in mind the objective of growth. And whereas the monetary policy framework in India shall be operated with the Bank of India. I just look at the preamble. How do you gather thoughts around the economic thoughts behind this whole preamble? The economic thoughts is an experience. Now this, the second and third, all that came in by Act of 2016. And whereas essential to a modern monetary policy and primary objective is to maintain price stability, all that came in the year 2016. There's a understanding that has evolved out of how the Reserve Bank of India's role in monetary policy over a period of time, not only domestically, across the globe. Therefore, that information, that knowledge is gathered in this preamble. I am trying to look at each one of those. A modern monetary policy framework to meet the challenge of an increasingly complex economy. So we're not looking at some black money here and there, some fake currency here and there, trying to avoid being detected. We are trying to look at the larger picture of how do you manage a complex, challenging monetary policy today. So in that context, if it happens that these irritants on the way, these impediments on the way, derail the monetary policy itself, what will be the nature, the extent, the degree of derailment? That is absolutely irrelevant. The only arguments was that, look here, you're completely failed in the three stated objectives. So therefore, your policy perspective is completely wrong. I don't think any right-meaning person will say that because of the best intentions, you still fail, your intentions are also faulty. I don't think that logical connection ever be made. Therefore, it's important to look at each and every phrase which is contained in the preamble. So let me take your lordships to what happened in 1934. Please come to section 3. This section 3 reminds on the statute from 1934. A bank to be called the Reserve Bank of India shall be constituted for the purpose of taking over the management of the currency from the central government and of carrying on the business of banking in accordance with the provisions of this Act. Currency management is the reserve of the Reserve Bank of India. And what is the currency management? We'll go as along, we'll find out what exactly are those aspects of facets of currency management. Kindly turn to...
What is their main submission, Learned Attorney? According to them, everything that has to be done with regard to currency.
Yes.
It's a primary duty of the RBI. And therefore, subsection 2 of section 26 requires that the proposal should have come from the RBI.
I'll currently come to it. I'm only trying to lay down.
There is no dispute with the proposition that RBI has a primary role insofar as management of currency is concerned.
No, there's no dispute about it. RBI has the currency.
They are also on the same.
No, their perspective is argument is slightly different. RBI must apply its mind completely. No outside dictation. Government shall have no role to play in that. If RBI has not applied its mind, survey, data, this, that, etc., nothing is there. Where is the application of mind? Where is the recommendation? So I'm only trying to point out, look at it little closely. The connection between, having regard to the composition of RBI, the connection between the working of the government and the RBI must be seen from a very flexible point of view. It is not a case where RBI in its functions is impeded by an outside agency like the Government of India saying, don't do this. Then it's a different matter altogether. So we are looking at the necessary symbiotic connection between the government and the RBI. We're looking at this very complex issue of moving towards a modern economy and a very stable monetary policy. Despite trying to have the best of the stable monetary policy, every year lordships know budgets comes and go. And we always challenge about budgets. People have questions about budgets. The failed budgets, successful budgets, so on and so forth. Therefore, we don't say failed budget means somebody had not applied his mind. So we don't say all that. Therefore, we are looking at the symbiotic connection between the government and the RBI. If you want to sever them and put them in compartments in isolation and say that RBI must first apply its mind, never in touch with Government of India, never in consultation or having any correspondence, but must do his own job, then come and tell government, look here, I have a recommendation, will you consider that? I think I have a small difficulty in that construction. That's why I'm trying to take lordship. Look at the complexity of the power now imposed on the function of discharge of the RBI under this very challenging circumstances. That's why you said don't give it a crimped, capped and confined construction. Give it a very flexible construction, a wide construction.
No,
Now let me take lordships further on that and
the argument was,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Attorney General, the argument was that the Act recognizes the expertise of the persons in the RBI And it is that expertise which must recommend to the central government. The Act recognizes that. Central government, we are not saying is bound by that recommendation or not bound by that recommendation. We are not at that. We are at the position of where it should emanate. No doubt there must be symbiotic relationship, all that is there. But the legislation is not like that. Legislation recognizes the expertise of the Reserve Bank board, the application of mind by the central board to the central government. Argument is, where is that?
My argument is not that RBI's role has to be minimized. It doesn't have that kind of role. Its application of mind is of no consequence. I'm not saying that. I'm only trying to appeal to look at that's why I use the word symbiotic connection. It's a very organic connection between government and RBI.
They have to work in sync with each other.
That's I think very important. You don't say, I'll sit in my own chamber, unconnected with you, or I will not listen to you at all. I will not lend my ears to you. And I don't think that's the way in current contemporary times. Your monetary policy, its evolution, its integrity, its cohesion, all that will have to be kept in mind. Therefore, that's why I try to lay this very broad framework, and that's very important consideration. Now, kindly turn to page 7, section 7. The central government may, from time to time, give such directions to the bank as it may, after consultation with the governor or the bank, considered necessary in the public interest. Subject to such directions, the general superintendent in direction of the affairs and business of the bank shall be entrusted to a central board of directors, exercise all powers and do all acts, things which be exercised by done by the bank. So and so, provided regulation made by the central board, the governor shall have so and so nominated powers of general superintendent. This power to give directions probably will find in many statutes where the central government or a state government can always give directions to an authority, statutory authority. But it also occupies a slightly different connotation from what I propose to do. Then kindly turn to now section 70. These are the kinds of business with the bank shall be authorized to carry on and transact the several kinds of businesses hereinafter specified namely. And we'll also look at the kind of businesses which have been added over a period of time. They are very valuable additions. And maybe if you look at it very closely, some of them seem to be unconnected, but they have a certain connection. So the functions of the bank which have increased over a period of time are also on the basis of the experience gained at what important role a central bank will play in the national economy. Without taking lots of those detailed provisions, kindly now turn over to chapter 3, section 20. The bank shall undertake to accept monies for account of the central government and to make payments up to the amount standing to the credit to the account and to carry out its exchange, remittance, and other banking operations, including the management of the public debt of the union. That's where 20, 22, 34, etc. may come. Then kindly turn over to section 22. The bank shall have the sole right to issue banknotes in India, may for the period which shall be fixed by the central government on the recommendations of the central board, issue currency notes of the government of India, supply to it the central government, and the provisions of the act applicable to banknotes shall unless so and so apply to all currency notes of the government of India, issued to the central government or by the bank like manner, as if such currency notes or banknotes and reference and so shall be construed accordingly. Then 23, issue department. The issue of the banknote shall be conducted by the bank and issue department, which shall be separated and kept wholly distinct from the banking department. And the assets of the issue department shall not be subject to any liability or the liabilities of the issue department defined in section 34. Then kindly turn to section 24. Subject to the provisions of subsection 2, banknotes shall be of denominational values of 2 rupees, 5 rupees, 10 rupees, 20, 50, 100, 500, so on and so forth, not exceeding 10,000 rupees, that the central government may, on the recommendation of the central board, specify in this behalf. The central government may, on the recommendation of the central board, direct the non-issue or the discontinuance of issue of banknotes of such denominational value as it may specify in this behalf. These are conceptually different from section 26. Then 26. Subject to the provisions of subsection 2, every banknote shall be the legal tender at any place in India in payment on account for the amount expressed therein and shall be guaranteed by the central government. Therefore, two concepts, it shall be legal tender and guaranteed by the central government. If in the absence of section 26(1), so the question of banknotes and their legal tender will not arise. Therefore, here is the most important provision in the RBI Act. Then having given the power to issue banknotes, should it stop there? So should it leave to an imagination or to an unoccupied field for the RBI to deal with? Once you have issued banknotes, what do I deal with them? If I want to deal with them later at any point of time, having regard to the monetary policy demands. So subsection 2 is very important. On the recommendation of the central board, the central government may by notification the Gazette of India declare that with effect from such date, as may be specified in the notification, any series of banknotes of any denomination. It is the importance is not on the series, the importance is on the denominations. What would I look at? I create denominations 10, 20, 30, 500, 1,000. Those denominations will now become legal tender. And with those denominations, for every denomination, there is a series of notes. For every denomination, there is a series of notes.
It is preceded by any series of.
That's right. My submission is the focus of this provision is not necessarily exclusively on series. It is on denominations. Denominations are the value. Series are only the presentations. So denomination is what I'm going to account when looking with the legal.
For 10 minutes, 3 minutes, he'll do it. He does not understand the nature. She herself is a doctor. He doesn't. She is there online. We haven't found that there is
uncertainty. Therefore, I look at the denominations and whatever be the series in denomination, I want to look at it totally.
No, it is not supposed to be done on a day-to-day basis,
It should not be done. It should, that's what I said.
Demonetisation is not to be done on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
That is why the
Look at the uncertainty for me. For every citizen, if I am going to say 500 rupees denomination, I am going to cease to be legal tender. But tomorrow I will notify 10 series. Day after tomorrow I will notify 8 another series. Will there not be an endless uncertainty and chaos? It will be. Therefore, in order to ensure that there is a guarantee of comfort, I am looking at one denomination. I must necessarily bring within it all series possible. Otherwise, it will be endless uncertainty and chaos. Therefore, the way you construe it is not the reference to series, but the reference to denominations.
But then immediately after you bring into both the notes of same denomination on the very next day.
Yes.
If you, according to the focus is only on denominations, you withdraw all 500 rupees notes and then on the same day again start new series of 500 notes.
No, that's a different issue altogether.
No, if you're
That's a different
that
issue.
you have to focus only on denomination.
That's a different.
That argument runs contrary to what you are telling.
I only my first argument is, how do you really look at section 26? We have been told, focus your attention on series, any series. I say, I'm sorry, it's wrong. Focus is, when you wanting to have something to be ceased to have legal tender, you are looking at denomination. Because the bank denomination of notes is what is section 24 talking about.
That is exactly the question which
Yes.
my lord just now
Yes.
said. The very next day, you resurrected the same denominations,
No.
500 and
I'll address
the
that question. I'm only trying to say, how do you address this? How do you construe section 26? And the question very next day, I said this, I did that. He said, he is so connected with the monetary policy, a demonetization will be a series of issues. I'll come to that. But I'm only trying to tell you, Lordships, the only way to read section 26(2) is to focus on what will you do when you want to say, I want this shall cease to be legal tender. My first step is I'm looking at the denominations.
No, probably that argument may help if you want to demonetize all 1 rupee notes because they are far and not. If you want to demonetize all 1 rupee currency, maybe this argument can be accepted because that is of really no value in today's world. Your argument could be possibly for 1 rupee, 2 rupee currency, but not for 500 and 1000.
May I address this question also? The question of which denomination shall be chosen will again be a matter of policy considerations of why I am choosing. In the 1978 case, in the parliamentary debate, what happened was they also 500 rupees and 1000 rupee notes. In the parliament, somebody went and said, why are you not looking at 100 rupee notes? They are hugely in circulation.
This one is not voting properly. Was all.
78. So therefore, we are looking at, if you want to looking at one, a shift in the monetary policy from all these perspectives which I placed before your lordships. Number one. And number two, how do you, whatsoever you may do, howsoever you might endeavor to do. As I said, these two villains sitting outside, black money and fake currency, they grin at you. You can't reach them as much as you want. And therefore, you may fail. Therefore, the measure is not an, if somebody will sit outside and grin at you, you fail. Therefore, why you are going on demonetization? Therefore, very loudly it is suggested you must have a specific survey, a data, this and that. So we are talking about a nation's economy. We're talking about nation's economy and meeting challenges and how to deal with these outside enemies, which always, for instance, today, we are state actors outside. We don't know how much fake currency can come at any point of time. Derailing national economy has been happening in Germany during the Second World War. The only way they tried to destabilize the economy was to flush in fake currencies in the European countries. Therefore, it's a very easy thing to be done. Can we detect them with a small microscope or a glass somewhere? We can't. Therefore, we're looking at the larger picture. So please don't reduce section 26 to a very narrow area, 1 rupee, 10 rupee, 20 rupees, 5 rupees. No, please don't do that. Now let me read further. Yes. So an argument was made that look here, after demonetization, there was easy to detect the new. Your Lordship, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, I'm taking Lordship time.
The language employed in section 26(2) is
yes.
Any series, where is it?
Of bank,
Any series of banknotes of any
denomination
shall cease. Now, what have you demonetized here? All 500 and 1000.
like they are the denominations.
Of 500 and
500 rupees the denomination, 1000 is the denomination.
Yes, no, we will
Right.
go step by step.
I'm sorry.
Now the argument of Mr. Chidambaram is
Yes.
any does not mean all.
Uh,
Please listen to us.
yes.
Therefore, according to him, you could not have, for example, 500 rupee denomination notes. It has two series. For example, he said just 2 weeks prior to the date of denomination, you have issued currency notes. They were also demonetized after 2 weeks. Therefore, there were two series, Mahatma Gandhi G series and Mahatma Gandhi series, right?
All right.
There are. Now he says, you could not have done both the series. Therefore, the pointed question to is whether any includes all. That's all you have to argue.
No, that means